Greetings, it's Michaela. I'm like a floating head. So we are going to be talking about AI for the GI this evening. And so the explanation that I'd like to give for these two abbreviations are, this is not artificial intelligence for your gut. This is automatic intelligence, the wisdom that your body possesses for really your entire, I'm going to say almost digestive system. And what I really meant by that was what we're taking in that is creating a result, that's creating, what do I want to say, an effect. So anyway, so the first thing that I would love to kind of have people question in their own minds is what happens when we have things in our life or our business. I gave this talk to a women's networking group yesterday. When things are automated, when things are automatic. And so when we have things set up to function without us even having to lift a finger, typically the product, the byproduct of what's happening happens easier, it's faster, it saves time, it saves money, less to think about, we have more mental bandwidth, and it creates leverage. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm like, maybe that's a little bit better or a little more forgiving. So when more of our body's operations or responses are naturally set to default settings that we actually want, life is so much easier. We end up working smarter and not harder. And we get what we want and we keep what we want in a way that feels a lot easier. Okay? So with that, the thing that's so cool about this is that when we have things like this, automatic responses that are desirable to us, that in the past we've thought we've had to work hard to create or just kind of, fight this uphill battle, work against a rising tide, what ends up happening is if weight loss is our thing, which is often my thing, we end up doing less and losing more, or we end up doing less and having more. So whether that's improved health, the weight that we have lost or that we want to maintain, it makes life so much easier. And so I wonder if you are someone that feels like you have a body that requires kind of constant upkeep, whether that is feeding or fixing, like there's always something going on. You need to eat all the time. You've got this like new pain du jour. You've got something going on with yourself. You're sick a lot. If that's you, what I would just love to share is that can change in big and reliable ways when the body stops asking and starts handling more of you for you. So, surprise, we're going to talk about fuel use. This is what I help people with. This is one of the main things that I help people with. So, getting away from being reliant on sugar and being more able to use fat for energy. So I'd love to use an analogy that I think is a really powerful one. I'm borrowing this from Dr. Benjamin Bickman. He is a PhD, and his focus is, I feel like his studies are around insulin. He's really great to listen to follow around weight loss with the consideration of insulin, because basically insulin is the thing that's responsible for weight gain. And when we actually tend to that, we make weight loss a lot more straightforward, and we also improve health in a very obvious and logical way. Okay, so he made this analogy and I think it's great. So if you can think about basically like a fuel tanker truck. So we've got the cab where the driver sits, where the fuel tank is, and then we have the body of the truck. We have the tank that the truck is holding, actually, that's what it is. It's the tank that's holding the gasoline that this truck is carrying. So we've got thousands of gallons in this cylinder that is holding this fuel to be transported. So the analogy that I would love to make to distinguish between these two fuels and how available they are, how much there is available to us, is if you think about the gas tank for the actual truck, the reservoir is quite small. Like the driver actually has to go to a gas station, even though it's carrying thousands of gallons of gas. He has to go to fill up this teeny tank. Burning sugar needs replenishment frequently, hungry every few hours. But if you are burning fat, you're working off of the tank that's holding the gasoline for transport. And what that means is you have practically endless energy at your disposal. So not only is that really freaking useful for weight loss, just to have a direct line to the substance that you would wish to reduce, but what it also does is it creates all of these amazing health benefits, as well as these automatic responses just based on the fuel that you are predominantly using. Okay? So here we go. There are a lot of them, and I had to stop at some point. So basically, number one, if you care about weight loss and if you would like to have an automatic intelligence be going on in your body to help with these efforts, weight loss, when people say, oh, weight loss is so hard, and it's like, is it? Like, it doesn't have to be. Sometimes we have challenges. Sometimes we have complicated systems, things to be figured out, things to be worked out, potentially. But in general, once you're set up to use your body fat for fuel, it's a pretty straightforward walk, typically. So at any rate, one amazing automatic response that a fat-burning body has is that it wastes more energy. So basically, fat burners leak calories. When you are fat adapted, your body creates more beige or brown fat. If you have any awareness about brown fat, white fat is like the pinch and inch stuff, the jiggly stuff that we want to lose. Brown fat tends to be a little deeper in our body and creates heat. It burns the white fat. So a lot of people want to activate it by getting their body cold, which sounds terribly uncomfortable. But if you had a body that just made brown fat and burned white fat, created heat, which is energy inefficient, you wasted energy just as like how you live and breathe to speed up weight loss, that would be so convenient, would it not? So two people can eat the same calories, but the fat burner burns more as heat. It wastes more energy. When people are using fat for energy, they have a fuel hybrid engine. And what that really means is they are more metabolically flexible. They can go back and forth between using sugar or using fat for energy. And that is really a great sign of health, is the truth. So when a lot of people think, ooh, burning fat, that means a ketogenic diet. You have to be in ketosis. And that is not true. Eating less carbohydrates in general absolutely helps with this mode. But ketosis is a very deep place on the sugar and fat burning spectrum. So the sugar and fat burning spectrum is, it's a spectrum. So you're somewhere on it and you can move. When we are in a ketogenic state, or in the state of ketosis, that is a very deep state. That's a therapeutic state. The ketogenic diet was developed for children that had epilepsy, and that diet was really meant to impact their brain in a healthful way. We don't need to be there if that's not our state or objective. So you can still be further back on the spectrum and comfortably burning fat and eat carbohydrates. And so, doesn't mean excessively, it doesn't mean primarily, but it does mean daily, and it can mean a different amount based on your energy expenditure, your lifestyle, how much exercise you do, your body weight to begin with, your age. So many things. So anyway, when we have carbohydrates, we have less of an impact because we have improved insulin sensitivity. We have faster glucose clearance. We get that shit out of our body faster, and we easily return to burning fat after eating carbohydrates. So when a lot of people think, well, either it's, one or the other, right? I either eat carbohydrates and I'm burning sugar, or I don't eat carbohydrates and I'm burning fat. And it's like, well, I like carbohydrates. I like sexy bread and cake and what else could be so amazing? Pasta, cookies. And it's like, so if I have to give this up, hi Corey, hi my dear. If I have to give up carbohydrates forever to have the benefits of burning fat, I don't know that I really want to do that. And that would be reasonable as far as I'm concerned. But if you get your body burning fat, you become better at handling carbohydrates. And that doesn't mean that we now suddenly have a diet of Twinkies. But what it does mean is that when we do have carbohydrates, whether that's, brown rice or sweet potatoes or a lollipop, like we can manage that better. When we are using fat for fuel, when we're getting our automatic intelligence situated, up and running, we have our hunger hormones become more accurate. And that simply happens because we are less reliant on sugar. So we're not responding to these false hunger signal sugar crashes. We have better leptin signaling, which is also consequential for weight loss. And so we kind of take blood sugar out of the equation because of this massive reserve of fuel that we have access to. So we don't have these kind of, I thought about food and suddenly I need to eat. It's like we're just solid, and we do get hungry and we do need to eat, but it's just never an act of desperation. And if it becomes that way, we've had a lot of warning until it's like, I need to eat right now. But there's never hangriness. There's never urgency where we need to eat a bag of chips because our blood sugar's in our shoes. Another amazing thing that happens as this automatic intelligence is something called autophagy. So this is a super sexy word. This is in the realm of fasting. And basically it happens when we have food less of the day. So when we get to the 12 to 16 hour mark of not having eaten yet, between when we end dinner and when we have our first meal of the day, that's when autophagy starts to happen. And it really kicks in starting around hour 24. So if you're someone that eats once a day, you have the opportunity to start to take advantage to kind of high octane help. So what is autophagy? Excuse me. What is autophagy? Basically, it's our cellular rejuvenation process. And what that means is when we give our cells, our body, the bandwidth, when we give it some space, when we're not constantly eating, which takes a lot of focus and energy, basically, our body has the ability to clean itself up, to repair defunct parts of cells, to create new organelles, to clean up damaged proteins, old tissues, and excess cellular debris. One thing that's amazing is that, so basically it's like your body's kind of it's fixing itself, it's repairing itself by you doing nothing, by you comfortably waiting until your next meal. One thing that's amazing about this, so this is so huge for health. If vanity is something that's important to you, like some of us, autophagy slows aging. Basically, every time we eat, we're giving our cells the instruction to divide. We only have so many divisions for our cells before they're done. So if you are someone that cares about aging, that has done any research on it, you're probably familiar with something called telomeres, which are essentially the protective caps at the ends of our DNA strands. And the length of your telomeres will indicate the length of your remaining life. So when we eat often, basically we're just running these guys down faster than we potentially need to. But when we eat less often, we just slow that rate super simply, super comfortably. Additionally, with autophagy, what it does is it affects our skin in a big way. So if you've ever, like, you know, for those of us that are aging or all those of us who are getting older, what autophagy can do is it eats up like dead extra protein, skin. So the body can reclaim and remodel tissue. This also helps with collagen production. And when you are someone that either, if you're losing weight, if that's your goal, basically sometimes people having extra skin can be a concern. It's like, great, now that I've lost like 50 pounds, I have like bat wings or this like apron of a stomach. And essentially, when you are using an approach like this, what happens is your tissue, your body kind of like cleans itself up. It kind of eats this extra dead protein up as you go along. So you don't have this extra skin kind of hanging around simply because of the lifestyle that you're living. So no surgery, no unsightly extraness, just because of how you live and the fuel you use. Another thing that I think is super interesting and useful for women over 40 to know is that when we have this automatic intelligence in place, these systems in place, our body naturally preserves muscle without having to worry or try so hard. So most people assume also when you lose fat that you're also going to lose muscle. When we are burning fat, we are creating ketones for energy versus glucose. Ketones by their nature are muscle sparing, muscle protecting. Human growth hormone is something that also increases in fat adapted states, which is muscle enhancing even. We have less of a need for constant protein signaling. And what that means is, I didn't understand this until I started to do research for this talk. Essentially, we don't need to constantly give our muscles protein because it doesn't, it's no longer looking at our muscles as backup fuel. So anxiety goes down around muscle loss because muscle is protected by this system. Sugar burning is a more fragile and more catabolic prone state, so if you think about cannibalism, breaking things down. So when the body gets hungry, the brain actually views hunger as a threat because it doesn't have this access to this storage. So if we don't have sugar, the body doesn't naturally just turn to fat. If it hasn't been set up to do that, it can go to muscle next. So it's like you have this kind of fragile disposition, this fragile constitution, where if you're hungry, it's like the second in command is the tissue that we never want to lose. But if you're burning fat, this precious tissue is always protected, and then there's never a need to go into it because this fuel is endless, abundant. Days, weeks, months for some people, depending on how much is on your frame. And then the state of being in a fat burning mode, it preserves muscle and it recycles protein. So it's like even the protein that you're eating, it's like if you don't use it all up, it's like it just kind of goes around again and gets utilized. And so anyway, it's just such a, a sound state for all of you. Our brain fuel improves when we are in this state. And so people, this is crazy, and it was crazy for me when I got into a fat burning mode, which was nuts. This is like 13 years ago. People often feel calmer. And I know for myself, I felt calmer and more confident, which was absolutely nuts to think that how you're eating can actually improve your emotions and your like temperament. because ketones cross the blood-brain barrier, they're just great fuel for the brain. There's also a less reactive cortisol response because there's less urgency for fuel from the brain, because once again, like the muscles, it's just being met, it's being served. So there isn't this kind of panic button that's being sounded often. And so with that, we just tend to feel more relaxed, more peaceful, more joyful, which is crazy. There's a lovely fat burner who's lost almost 22 pounds in just over 10 weeks. And she said something like, she's like, they're going to start hating me at work. She's like, I'm so happy. Like, and people are like, what's the matter with you? Like that you are so happy. And it's fat burning. Like that's what's different. And it's because of how it affects the brain. Amazing. Inflammation quietly reduces. So people experience less joint pain, less facial puffiness, less water retention. And basically it's because insulin is lower. So when insulin is lower, we have less inflammatory signaling. We have reduced glycation damage. Sugar creates a lot of metabolic waste, and it kind of makes things like sticky and age faster. And we also have improved lymphatic flow, which is part of our body's waste system, taking metabolic waste from the cellular exchange of basically veins or arteries to veins. This is for our blood. Anyway, another like hot word is something called apoptosis. And so two hot words around fasting are autophagy. We talked about that. Your cellular rejuvenation process makes you look more youthful, fixes your body, deals with extra skin. And then apoptosis. So autophagy happens sooner when we are going without food. And the disclaimer I want to make is you don't jump into this stuff. You get groomed to burn fat and then you go for longer over time. That's how I help people, which just makes it lasting, and you can do it forever and it's comfortable and your body doesn't freak out about it. But apoptosis is something that happens when we have gone like a little while without food, or like what you would think of as a complete meal. There are things you can actually eat when you're fasting. But that's more like over 24 hours, 36 hours. But apoptosis, the definition is cell death. And I'm going to say this, not a doctor, not a scientist, but this has been considered like an anti-cancer diet. And the reason why is because the process of apoptosis, essentially, your body is there to protect you. Like your whole, every function that is going on in your body, every hormonal response, everything, like the acid mantle of our skin is meant to protect us from like the outside world. We have eyelashes to protect us from like dust, nose hairs, like for the same, we sneeze to get shit out of our air passageways. Everything is about like keeping us safe and not dying. And so basically our cells, they're the best mechanics on the planet. If we can give them the tools that they need, often vitamins and minerals, and then space, they'll fix themselves. But anyway, so when cancerous cells are present, most healthy cells are harmonious. They are cooperative. They communicate amongst each other. They work together. Cancerous cells, not so much. They are destructive. They're like these rogue cells, and they are different than our happy, healthy cells. So when these are present and we have the bandwidth to do it, white blood cells take them apart. They dismember them. They kill them. And so what's amazing about this is that like this is such a like protective life-saving process that we're designed to do. And so we ramp this up by doing nothing, not taking anything, not being, filled with some sort of poisonous substance to hopefully like cut cancer. Our body does this naturally when we're able to burn fat easily. What else? When we are burning fat, we burn more fat after we eat. We have a faster switch back to using fat. For energy, we're either using food or we're using fat. And so when we eat food as a fat burner, we just get back to burning fat faster versus a sugar burner, which sometimes it's like a sugar burner. If you can relate to this, I could at one point. You eat and then you're hungry again. It's like, I just had pounds of food. Like, how on earth could I need more? And that's typically because of blood sugar and insulin. And we have less of a metabolic predisposition to store fat. And this is something I crow about a lot, which is it's easier to lose weight and it's harder to gain it, which is nuts. When we are using fat for energy, our body stops fighting weight loss. So, I said this maybe at the beginning, which is that a lot of people will say like, oh, weight loss is so hard, or I know you're working so hard, Michaela, it's like, I think strength training is hard, but I don't think weight loss is hard. It's deliberate, but it's not hard. It's conscious. It's like you could eat chips at any point in the day, but you might not want to if you're trying to eat in a certain way. If weight loss is your goal, or if staying in a fat burning mode is your goal, it's like you could have those chips with your meal if you really wanted to. Anyway, so we have less of a metabolic slowdown when we aim to lose weight because we don't have this limited amount of fuel in that tanker truck, and we don't have muscle as a backup. So the body, if we're under eating to lose weight, that's how weight loss works. We need to eat less food than we require. Hormones play another role, but calories count. But if we're under eating and we don't get to access this fuel that we actually want to use, the body will slow its metabolism, and it'll often chip into muscle as this secondary fuel, further slowing or lowering our caloric needs, slowing our metabolism. And then we have less compensatory hunger because, once again, it's like if we only have this tiny reserve and we're underfilling that, and our body still has this substantial caloric need, what can happen is, once again, the last thing your body wants you to do is die. You will live for longer without food, with more fat on your frame. So if your body feels like, hey, wait a minute, like we're not being fed enough here, and it doesn't have a sense that food is coming, what does it do? It will make you eat. In so many respects, the body will make you do what it needs to do. And so what can be really sucky about that is if we're trying hard in one direction and it's actually ineffective, and we're making our body kind of like push back in a big way and make us do things that are completely counterproductive for the effort, like eating more, it's just like we're just going in this like death loop. But when you're in a fat burning mode, shit like that doesn't happen because we're not putting ourselves in a state that feels compromised. And a big thing that I want to say is when weight loss actually feels hard, it's because the body thinks it's in danger. And so when it knows it has plenty of food, it's not. So it's just so much easier to let go of weight when you are using fat for energy. And so my final point is that fat burning is it's a supportive system and not a stressor when you're trying to lose weight. So when we're in a sugar burning mode, we have to be vigilant. We need to kind of control things. We have to measure everything. We need willpower because we are wrestling with either hunger or cravings. And then we have this constant correction. So, it's like, oh, I stole 2 French fries from my husband's plate. And so now I have to kind of like compensate for that by eating less later or being on the treadmill for longer. And it's like, this is just crazy. But when you're in a fat burning state, your body just feels so much more stable, even energy, always. We have more wiggle room with shit. Like when I gave this talk yesterday, I made this statement, like, I do a lot right and I mess up all the time as well, like deliberately sometimes, and also like completely inadvertently. It's like, I didn't really need to, you know, order pizza at 1 a.m. and like eat it all and then go to bed. Like that was not the best move. But that shit happens, and it's just like, it's not helpful, but it's just not that big a deal. And then when you're burning fat as well, hi Dolly, hi my dear. We have more flexibility, and we have more forgiveness. So flexibility, we switch back and forth between using sugar when we're eating it, going back to fat, no problem. And again, this element of forgiveness. And so that's where, like, I am all about, like, how do we get out of jail free? Like, how do we have our cake and eat it too? How do we not behave perfectly, but still look pretty freaking great and feel amazing, honestly? So the theme with being in a fat burning mode, with having these automatic, this automatic intelligence, just like going for us, the theme with it is not about trying harder. It's just about getting your systems situated. And how we do it is by getting you set up by going through a mitochondrial reconstruction to use that fat for energy. So when your body stops resisting and actually starts assisting and doing things automatically, life is so much easier. And so the biggest thing that I really want to stress with this is that, like, all of these things are great, right? It's like, oh yay, like weight loss is easier and health is improved. And then I have like my body working on my behalf to like either kind of like neaten things up or help me from not developing a degenerative disease. Thank you. Like cancer. Thank you. Like I feel calmer because my brain has the fuel that it needs. Amazing. But the thing that's amazing about it is that this creates so much peace of mind. Like this quiets food noise. Energy is continuous. Weight loss just happens steadily as a result of doing nothing. Muscle is protected, and the anxiety around protecting it goes away. But essentially, this kind of creates a calmer reality. I was joking again yesterday, so I made a video for the methodology that we use in Fat Burning Pro. And I was looking, so I'm putting in images to reflect what I'm saying, just to make this more engaging for the person who watches it versus just listening to me and or looking at me. And so anyway, typically when you think about a diet, how do you represent that? And so most people think about like, someone like eating a salad or, preparing food, meal prep, or exercising. And it's like, well, it's not any one of those things. Like, sure, people eat salads, but they also eat burgers, and they also eat ice cream, and they also don't eat it all. And they also like do go to the gym or never go to the gym. And so really like the biggest visual representation of fat burning for me is relaxing, like doing nothing. That's actually when weight loss happens. It's like when we are doing nothing. And so anyway, it's just such a freeing reality. So I'm going to share automatic intelligence. So this is when your body is in a fat burning mode. This is the shit that is just on repeat. So if you are someone that is interested or even curious about that, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to check out the sugar quiz that I have at the bottom of this video. So getting your body set up to use your own fat for fuel is so freeing. This is something that I help people do. There's a variety of time lengths, but it's a freeing existence. It is quite a logical process that you can feel, and that where your body's abilities increase, and all of these kind of automatic responses start to happen under the surface. Okay, so I encourage you to check that out to see what percentage of fuel is what do I want to say? What percentage of fuel you're using that is sugar and that is fat. And what that can do is that can just open your eyes to either what's happening easily or not, or what could be happening easily. Okay? So that's all I want to say. I hope that was useful. You know, I think that so often people pursue weight loss, fat burning, for different reasons. Typically it's to lose weight. But the thing that I want to say is often people think about maybe either that, you know, it's kind of the same, but just a little different, right? So it's like I could eat often and I could prioritize protein and I could have rice at my meals. Or I could even do this in a low carb way, but still be eating often. Or I could be doing a ketogenic diet and never eating carbohydrates ever. And it's like, there's kind of the possibility of a hybrid with these things, but frequency really matters. And so maybe just a couple things I'll say, if you want to help yourself in this effort, eat 3 times a day or less. And so that is going to help with insulin. That is going to help you to be a little less dependent on this urgency, this frequency of eating, which keeps insulin high, which is like the culprit for so many things. I'm going to encourage you to walk. And so if it's like, I don't exercise at all, the truth is you'd never have to. Like, I think that's a great move for health, for weight loss. It can help for sure. It's never the main mover. Diet always is. But if you want to do an exercise that reliably helps to tap into fat, walking is great. And then something, again, these are like maybe super basic, but these are a super basic place to start to give yourself a slightly different foundation. And then I'm going to say prioritize sleep. And so when we have poor sleep, insulin levels are raised, cortisol levels are raised, ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, levels are raised, and it makes the body more likely to cling to fat. And maybe the last thing I'll actually say that's connected to eating 3 times a day is do yourself a favor. Reduce decision chaos around food. And what that means is you need to have fewer decisions. Like, things need to be really freaking simple for us to be successful. And they need to be really freaking simple if it is new. If we're trying to create a new habit, it's like, for the love of God, do not make this shit complicated. Don't have to figure out what you're eating every day, like each time. So I call these default dinners for my fat burners. And so it's like you need to get some of these things under your belt. If you have a question about any of this, please be in touch with me. Hi, Megan. Hi, my dear. We're almost done. Please watch from the start. But anyway, so when you have these on repeat, these brainless meals that are super easy, the ingredients are in your fridge, they're easy, they're quick, they're reliable, they're delicious. If it's more than just you, everybody loves them, super freaking easy. Then what that does is it just sets you up for success. It makes failure harder. And so rather than, oh my God, I'm exhausted, never cook when you're hungry. Cook before you're hungry. And if that just means like preparing a large amount of meat and then just pulling from that, that's a great move. But anyway, so when you have just like a few things either accessible or just like, I know what to do, that can just prevent you from essentially like, you know, doing a knee-jerk response to ordering takeout for something that isn't supportive. All right? So that's it. That's it. Check out that sugar quiz. Be in touch if you have any questions. Would love to assist you in any way possible. And heavily consider this. I mean, this is just like how we're made, makes life easier. But I think it's very exciting and it's super freeing to have all these automatic reactions happening all the time by doing nothing. And the truth is, you could never do this like manually. Like you could never make this same impact happen simply by trying. Like it's just not possible. So when you get your body set up to work on your behalf, everything improves in a way that is kind of like seamless and effortless. Okay, I hope that was amazing. Please be in touch for any reason. Thank you so much for being here, and Happy New Year. And until next time.